Hey, everyone. It's Gary here. Welcome back to the channel. Today's story is a good one. So grab a snack, relax and take a listen to this. In today's story, Opie found out his wife cheated on him with a famous Olympian athlete 4 days after their 10-year anniversary. Now his wife is begging for mercy and claims she is very remorseful. Now, let's get into today's story to find out what happened. My wife and I have endured a lot over the course of our marriage. Most of which are things that were beyond our control. I have a successful career, but our earnings were taken from us by thieves twice in 5 years. And I have an immune disorder that gets me sick at the drop of a hat. So of course, when COVID came around, I almost died from it and spent over a year recovering from very bad symptoms that kept me in bed most days. Luckily, my career allowed me to work remotely from my bed, but I can't say I did my job well, as COVID brain fog is a thing. Fast forward to April 2021. Ailment, brain fog and financial difficulties. All culminated in me recognizing I reached the point of emotional hopelessness while not suicidal. I knew I needed professional help in a major way. So I voluntarily checked myself into a behavioral hospital for a few days while the hospital itself was only marginally helpful. One therapist helped me to realize that my long-term ailments made me unintentionally selfish due to prolonged depression. I ugly cried when I had this epiphany. As I realized what harm I brought my wife's emotional well-being and to our marriage in general, I was a new man almost overnight. In some respects, I was still quite emotionally fragile and recognized I had a long way to go to repair myself and regain my wife's confidence in me. I emerged from the hospital and my wife picked me up. She immediately noticed the 180, said, "Wow, I have my husband back." I told her my COVID symptoms continued to abate and even my libido and desire for emotional and physical intimacy for her was also returning and looked forward to embracing us fully, and my wife was incredibly happy for me. Unfortunately, fate stepped in 4 days later as she sat at a cafe outdoors. A younger, fit, healthy and charming athlete decided to strike up a conversation with her. My wife is, in a word, hot. I mean, I know I show bias because she's my wife, but she looks amazing. She is tall and very well proportioned and her face is beautiful. The gentleman in question was a foreigner and a charmer. He was a bona fide sponsored professional in his sport and well known in his country. He visited our city to train for a few weeks. When she came home, she could not shut up about the guy, but I thought nothing of it. Crushes happen and I am not the jealous type. The day after was the beginning of the bad times ahead. She didn't tell me they exchanged contact information and they met up. She came home from her daily dog walk, beaming. I knew immediately she met him. She tried to deny it, but she knows I am very astute when it comes to reading people in general. She pretty much told me that she was going to have this non-emotional, purely physical thing, and said sex would not likely happen as I was 5 days out of the mental hospital. I was in no position to fight her on this, either mentally or physically. As with the latter, I was still weak from fighting 14 months of COVID. Even though the vaccine continued to allow me to improve steadily every day with the lack of intimacy on my end due to being sick for so long. And considering he was only in town for another week before he returned to his home country, she was absolutely determined to have this affair because I lacked the means to fight her effectively. She viewed it as approval for me, which it was not. I essentially told her that she should let me track her phone at all times for her safety. She would let me know if they were intimate. She promised, but she lied on both counts. Of course, furthermore, she told me that while he was in town, I could not hug her, touch her, kiss her or make any intimate overtures towards her. I told her that I was afraid she was lying to me and that she was falling for him. I asked her to promise me I was not losing her. Remember, I was fresh out of a mental hospital due to hopelessness and she said she could not promise that to me. She took him to our favorite restaurant, a very romantic place. They made love in a park that night. Even though she told me they had only kissed the next morning, She grew livid when I asked her again how far they went. Adults don't go into a closed park at night to kiss, and insisted I was being paranoid. She checked herself into the swankiest hotel in our city because she needed time to herself and tried to convince me that she was not doing so. In order to see him, she stayed for 2 nights. At the end of the second night, he showed up. She had the nerve to text me that he came to the hotel and that they had mediocre sex. Then he left. She met him one final time the next morning at a cafe as he was leaving the next day. She decided to go all out and proclaim she had fallen for him. Here's where it gets funny and sad. The man was a player in every sense of the word. He was shagging multiple women while in town, trying to juggle them all, including my wife, at no time. Did he reciprocate any words of affection or emotional attraction to my spouse? He was a 100% pure alpha male player, treated her horribly, spent most of their time together talking about himself, his training, and even that he went to a strip joint with members of a professional NFL team, which pissed her off, but also made him even more attractive to her, of course. So she came home fully expecting me to light her up, and I did. She said she did it. It's over. She had no emotional feelings for him and said it was my decision as to whether or not I wanted to stay with her afterwards. She said she did it as a means to regain her self-confidence. Something I tried to do for years before I got sick, to no avail. I'm a pretty smart cookie and really, really good from a technical perspective. I knew from the outset she would lie, omit and follow the cheating wife's playbook, and did it to the letter, including gaslighting me on a number of occasions. Let's say that I had the means to listen in on their conversations in real time and recorded it. She knew I had the capability, but she chose to blatantly disregard it and pressed on with the affair. Of course, she even offered to let me go and screw someone to make me feel better if that's what I wanted to do. So stupid, so typical of a response. Every lie she told, I called her out on. I presented the evidence. She was devastated when she knew she was fully caught. I had just about everything. Of course, she tried the "I can't remember" crap. She tried to downplay their sexual encounters. I knew about both. I knew she told him she fell for him as again. I was able to listen in real time and record the same. I gave her the transcripts. So where are we now? Now she is aware of how much she hurt me. She's doing everything and anything to make it right. But there is nothing she can do to regain my trust. And she knows that as well. She says she is willing to take my anger and my indifference for the rest of our lives. If it means that I may see through her actions that she is more than sorry for what she did to me. I think she is truly remorseful. She admits that if he stayed in town longer, she would have continued to see him, knowing full well that it would have completely ruined any chance we had to reconcile. She's blocked him. I have access to all of her devices. I know where she goes at all times. She says she will let me do this until the end of time. What she doesn't understand is that she has forever changed me. I was never a jealous man. I am not an alpha. I never tried to be, but I am confident in who I am as a man, and I've never had problems with the ladies. I've had 100 opportunities to stray due to women's advances towards me, and I never considered infidelity. The first time it happens to her, she was a bit heavy prior to how she looks. Now she lets herself get shagged and all because he was so good looking and fit and confident. He played her like a fiddle. Why am I not filing for divorce immediately? Because prior to her idiotic endeavor into wayward Whiteville, she bent over backwards when I had COVID for 14 months. She kept me on this planet. To say what she did was over and above to keep me on Earth would be an understatement. I know she loves me. I know why she betrayed me. She tried to blame it on stress and lack of confidence. But in truth, it was simply because a guy like that for the first time in her life wanted to screw her. And he said all the right things about her looks. He got her to say sexual things she would never otherwise say. She has admitted to everyone from her friends, to her parents, what she did, and that she will spend the rest of her life trying to make it up to me. And she knows I don't trust her and may still decide to leave her right now. It's 50-50 about whether I will call it quits. I have a lawyer. I have papers written up and ready to be delivered if she messes up. Even once with me. Update. Here's some more info on her affair partner. The guy is on his way out as a pro sports guy as he's in his late 30s. He still competes and travels internationally with his country's Olympic team. He has a side gig where he uses his charm and his story about his accomplishments to woo beautiful, sophisticated, wealthy married women to get into the sack with him, as I am a cybersecurity guy with an additional talent for looking into anyone's life as I see fit. I found out very quickly that he owns a sex site along with his brother. He clandestinely records women. He conquers whether in their own homes, hotel rooms, etc. His MO is that he wants to listen to music from his smartphone. In actuality, he's using it to record videos. Update. Number 2. There are some more things I need to clarify while I don't want to do the homework. For those of you who say COVID doesn't last for 14 months or the vaccine doesn't cure COVID, you're right. On both accounts to a point. There exists a group of people, roughly 20% of those who contract COVID-19 and are symptomatic, who experience one or more moderate to severe symptoms beyond 60 to 90 days. Many of us who contracted the virus early in mid-2020 seem to experience the long haul of symptoms that last over a year. Look it up. As for the vaccine curing me, you're right, it didn't. Also, I see that some of you are calling me a simp for staying with her. I am a Sigma male. I am confident, charming, good-looking when not sick, intelligent and exudes self-confidence. I suppose it's a difficult thing for those who don't suffer long-term ailment, especially an ailment that completely takes away one's libido for over a year, to process that I had no desire and I was impotent due to COVID and occasionally due to my immune system prior to COVID-19, which affected our relationship for certain. That does not make me a simp. I have seen what women will do when they are infatuated and have the opportunity to cheat. They will do just that. And my wife was no exception. Of course, I told her no. Of course, I told her. What kind of a person? She was shallow, narcissistic, etc. for what she was determined to do. She initially denied anything was going on, but I knew better and called her out. But my body and spirit were weak. I was like, fine. You want to do this and potentially wreck us, at least let me know where you are at all times, because you don't know this man. Yes, I know he is famous in his country and he has an image to protect. But please don't be intimate with him. If you decide to go that route, wear protection for yourself. I don't plan on having any intimate relations with you. Should you go that route? Just so you know, of course, she agreed to all terms and broke every rule because she was being a typical defiant female cheater and I was an impediment to her desire to have the affair. Also, I have divorce papers ready for my lawyer to pull the trigger. But there are some issues. My state is no fault. So her infidelity and my evidence concerning it means nothing. She doesn't work. I have always made excellent money so that she can be the artist and socialite she wanted to be. She's highly educated, very intelligent and very talented, artistically, and she spends most of her time volunteering for many worthy causes for others. Less fortunate. But what that means for me is that should I divorce her, I'd likely have to pay alimony in an amount equivalent to her lifestyle. Our current financial difficulties stem only from identity theft because as a security guy, I pissed off a few hackers who are well-funded and represented other countries. I still make good money. We are crawling out of the hole, but I'll be damned if I divorce her right now and she'll be the one who benefits and I'll still be okay and have a decent living wage. But paying her alimony after she screwed me over this hard all because the state doesn't care about infidelity. This is reason number 2 why I haven't pulled the trigger. Wow. I don't even know where to start. There's so much to unpack here from my understanding. The reasons you are planning on staying with her are because you believe this was a slight hiccup she had because for the first time in her life, she got the validation she needed from a guy who was perfect in her eyes. The second reason you stated is that you can't afford a divorce right now due to the hacker situation. Here's what I think you need to do. If you can't divorce her right now, then your next option should be to at least separate from her so that you can have some space to clear your head. It would be nice to believe that she just had an itch that needed to be scratched and that it won't happen again. But the likelihood that another man could get into her head and into her pants by just paying attention to her and complimenting her on her looks seems way too prevalent. And what if he comes back to town? You aren't entirely sure what she told him about herself, and he may have the resources to find her unless she has learned the hard lesson that she got played. She and you are in for more heartache. And if she is okay with being humped by a stud because she is getting her jollies out of it, she will do it again. Only if she is disgusted by being used and knowing she was a throwaway. Will there be any chance on her end of it never happening again? But you won't know that until a similar situation arises and she either shuts it down or falls for it again. Do you really want to take that risk? I also recommend that you get into counseling so you can learn more on how to deal with this situation. Good luck. Thanks for taking the time to listen to today's story. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already done so, and comment below on what your thoughts are on today's story. If there's a story you would like to share with me about your own situation or someone else's, then please do not hesitate